Hello and welcome to the Blockade Runner podcast number 252. My name is John. Joining me tonight is Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
Hello.
And this is our first episode for a couple weeks, I think. Ryan, you and I were both a couple of Blockade runners for real last weekend, so we were a little busy, you know.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I ran a 5K on Saturday, and Ryan ran a full-ass half marathon on Sunday, which is pretty impressive stuff.
A full half marathon.
It's 4 times the distance I ran, so it feels pretty full to me. You know what I mean? So that's impressive.
It felt very full to me as well.
Yeah, so as a result, we are now just getting back to Star Wars Visions. And Ryan, with all those miles you were running, you didn't quite get through all of Star Wars Visions. So we're going to talk about the ones that you've watched, the 3 that follow the first ones we talked about. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, we have a great message, per usual, from our friend Dave Hackerson in Japan. So we're going to jump into that and share Dave's thoughts on the episodes we covered. And then we will jump into a few more that we haven't talked about yet. So Ryan, do you want to read the opening paragraph of this message from Dave?
Sure. Hello, gentlemen. As always, the two of you bring great nuanced discussion to the saga about those wars in the stars. I did not really know what to expect with Star Wars Visions Season 2. The first installment, as brilliant as they all were, fell largely in line with my expectations because Japanese anime is such a familiar medium to me. I don't want to say I was more impressed with Season 2, as that feels akin to betraying my adopted country, but the quality of each short more than surpassed my expectations. Each nation lent their own culture and traditions to their respective shorts, and in doing so reinforced what I have long believed, that Galaxy Far, Far Away has a universal feel that allows for any Earth culture to reside in a truly palpable Star Wars alter ego. Here, I'll follow your lead and provide my own thoughts on the first 3 shorts. Side note, I watched all of these in the Norwegian dub with Japanese subtitles. I've been dabbling in Norwegian since I'm 100% Norwegian by blood. That's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave clearly has a talent or a gift for language, so impressive that he's picking up some Norwegian. Anytime I've tried to learn another language, Ryan, I've been very poor at it. So
yeah, the only Norwegian I know are black metal lyrics.
I thought you were going to make like a Beatles reference there and be like, the only Norwegian I know is wood, But you didn't go that route.
No, I'm more black metal than Beatles.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Let's share Dave's thoughts on each episode. So we'll start with Sith. Dave writes, the first thing that came to mind with all the vibrant colors perpetually in motion and shifting was the amazing 1998 film What Dreams May Come, starring Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr. Side note, I've never seen that movie and I've always meant to. So maybe this will act as a catalyst. I need to check it out. Have you seen What Dreams May Come?
I have not. No,
Okay.
I've always heard good things, though.
Yeah, and I love Robin Williams, so I should definitely check it out. This line of thought then took me to the quote by our Zen Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn, your focus determines your reality. In the film What Dreams May Come, the heaven Robin Williams' character goes to is one of his own creation. His focus determines that otherworldly reality for his soul in the afterlife. In the short Sith, we see our main protagonist coming to realize that her reality in the Force is determined by her focus. Her acceptance of both light and dark, and indeed their inseparable nature when it comes to coloring her canvas, helps her create a more well-rounded reality in the Force. The defeat of her Sith master enabled her to cast off his weight and allow both the light and the dark to coexist within her reality. After 2 viewings, it blows me away that what appears to be such a simple story in terms of plot delivers on so many metaphorical levels. Yeah, well said. Hey, Ryan, that's some advice you could take when it comes to the Beatles and black metal. You don't have to be one or the other. You know what I mean? You could find the balance between the two.
Yeah, that's true. I could do that.
But yeah, do you have any other comments on Dave's message?
No, I think I think this kind of happened when we had our conversation about the short. Like, for me, it did seem incredibly simple. But then, like, you brought up your impressions of it, and you talked about the behind the scenes stuff and what they were talking about there. And then, hearing Dave talk about, the different things he got from it and from second viewings, like, it is, I've kind of realized that it was much more nuanced short than I initially thought. So that's cool.
Yeah, but but very visual storytelling though. Like most of the, or I guess a lot of the depth or the compelling ideas are primarily communicated visually. You know what I mean? So it's the kind of thing I think you do pick up on after more than one viewing, or for me, I had the cheat code of watching the creators talk about it afterwards. That helps too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a really striking and really impressive. I was watching Into the Spider-Verse again this week.
Heck
and
yeah.
some of the visuals in that film were reminding me of kind of the striking and colorful visual style of the short Sith. So
Nice.
Very cool.
It's funny. When I went to the Mario movie, they showed Spider-Verse and then the new Ninja Turtles trailer, like back to back, and like that's kind of how like Star Wars Visions feels. Like you're just getting these like very like strong visual styles, just like one after another, and like you see it initially and you're like, sometimes you're like, I don't know if I like this, and then like you watch it in like motion for a little while and you're like, yeah, okay, that's really good. Like that's how I was already sold on like the Spider-Verse style because I like the first movie and I think it's the best looking animated film from the West out there. But then like the Turtles one, initially I was like, I don't know, this is a little weird, and then like seeing it in motion and like the way like the characters just feel so natural, you're like, yeah, that's good. So, and that, I don't know, it's fun. I like that we are at a point where we can have visually distinct animated films in the theater, because for a while it was getting a little homogenous looking with just the Pixar, DreamWorks, Illumination films where everyone just kind of looks the same. But yeah, and I think that's what's really fun about Visions too.
Right on. Hey, do you want to read the next one about Screecher's Reach, or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
First, to address the historical reference to the workhouses. You may know, but from the mid-1600s to the early 1920s, the Irish Isles were under the control of Great Britain. With the Columbian Exchange, New World vegetables such as corn and potatoes led to population explosions in all parts of the world. The potato was especially transformative for Ireland and helped fuel its own population explosion. In the early 1840s, Ireland had 8.5 million people. Then the potato famine struck, in which a bacterial pest caused potato crops to fail. Over 1 million Irish died and another million left the country, many immigrating to the U.S. Gangs of New York is informative here, the UK, and Australia. By 1900, there were only 4 million people in Ireland. I had a chance to visit Northern Ireland in 2001-2002 and stay with my dear friend Niall And even then, there were so many abandoned stone houses in the countryside. I asked his dad what happened, and he said they all packed up and went to America. The flood of Irish immigrants to the US and UK coincided with the takeoff of the Industrial Revolution, and looking for employment, these immigrants flooded the workhouses in major cities in the US, New York and Boston, and in the UK, Manchester and Liverpool, with these houses being dismal factories churning out the goods for the masses. In rewatching this short, I'm kicking myself for not making that connection right away. Recontextualized with the information from the behind-the-scenes documentary, I really like how they channeled the misfortune and exploitation of the Irish and depicted it through the lens of imperial oppression in Star Wars. Truly impressive. One thing the director touched on in the documentary was how much he enjoyed the cave scene in Empire Strikes Back. Caves have long been viewed as a portal to the other world, as we can see with the kivas in Pueblo Native American culture. The ancient Celts also believed that caves served a similar purpose, and this was something I noticed in the Druid ruins I saw in Northern Ireland. The confrontation of our main protagonist and the Banshee-inspired Darkside presence was a harrowing scene that struck all the right horror notes, but I felt a bit of sympathy for the Screecher when I saw how pitiful she looked. The manner in which they depicted her choosing to use the lightsaber to vanquish the Screecher, I feel, was to make the audience believe it was a do-or-die situation. The closing scene really resonated with me. Indeed, I saw a bit of myself reflected in the protagonist as I too left my friends and family to venture out into the greater galaxy far, far away. I really loved the design of the Sith Master, for it evoked medieval depictions of Mary, the mother of Jesus, and other saints as they would have appeared in the stained glass artwork of the cathedrals. This was a master stroke, in my opinion, for Western audiences familiar with this imagery would likely feel a sense of conflict as the master looks inviting and motherly, but deep down we know she's evil. I want to try to tweet about some of this stuff in Japanese because I feel like it might be missed by the Japanese audience as they lack knowledge in this cultural context.
Yeah. Very interesting insights from Dave. I feel like I lack knowledge. Well, I don't know. Like, I mean, as soon as he starts describing, the stained glass artwork and things like, that's all familiar to me, of course. But I don't know that I was thinking of that, But I guess maybe we as Western audiences have more of a subconscious, like, sort of understanding of it, and that's probably what Dave's getting at too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also I thought it was interesting that he said that he thought the depiction of the Screecher being killed was meant to make the audience believe it was a do-or-die situation. Mm-hmm. I would have to go back and rewatch that because I kind of felt like it was some major dark side energy there. I kind of felt like here's this old woman who's helpless, trapped under a rock, and she's being executed by, that girl.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this, and I've kind of read it in two ways. Like, one, I mean, I don't think the protagonist was threatened in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't feel a sense of threat there. I feel like it could have been like some dark side, just cruelty, is possible. But I think what I lean towards more is, like, knowing how conflicted this character is. I think, like, my gut reaction is that it was a mercy kill because she was trapped under that rock and old and feeble. And I think, the killing part is technically dark side, I guess, in Star Wars language, but I think there is, a sense of mercy in that, which would be more like light side.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, interesting. Yeah, I could see that. And of course, Dave's additional commentary on the historical elements of this. Pretty very interesting. And like I said, I really only knew what the creators touched on in the behind the scenes thing, so it's great to learn a little bit more about that from Dave, who I assumed would know all about it.
Yep.
And he did. So that's really interesting. I'd love to go. I've never been to Ireland. I'd love to go there. And reading about Dave's experience there is making me that much more interested. And Ireland is becoming a real Star Wars destination, I feel like, at this point.
Yeah, Skellig Michael.
Yeah. So
they do tours.
You're
There's
right.
A website. Yeah.
You're
Seems
right.
cool.
Oh, my friend Jeremy went there. He climbed the Jedi steps. So
wow.
Yeah. I got to get there someday. All right, one more episode, or I guess short here to talk about in terms of Dave's commentary, and then we'll jump into the next three. So the last one here is In the Stars. Dave writes, "The classic dichotomy of indigenous peoples under the yoke of imperial oppression rang loud and clear in this episode. What I really liked is how the two sisters have a strong connection with the Force. Whether it was intentional or not, I feel this was an indirect critique of European colonialism and the present-day capitalism that it helped foster. Native peoples have always cherished their connection with the natural world, viewing it as something to be both utilized and nourished. On the other hand, colonialism leans heavily into the exploitation facet, and in this short, we see the tragic consequences of this unfettered exploitation of resources. Given that the animation studio for the short is based in Chile, I feel that must have been part of the historical background that they drew upon in crafting this very moving tale about two sisters who tap into the Force to restore the rightful balance to their home planet. In doing that, they proved what Vader said to the Moffs who were gloating about the Death Star's power. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force. Two other things that stood out to me. First, the fact that the two sisters were the last of their people echoed James Fenimore Cooper's Last of the Mohicans, but more in the vein of the historically accurate 1992 film with Daniel Day-Lewis, Russell Means, and Eric Schweig. Second, the design of the city and water facilities reminded me of Midgar and Final Fantasy VII. You're back just in time, Ryan, which in turn brought to mind how Mako energy was being drained from the planet. Incidentally, written in kanji, Mako means magic light. Okay, I'll cut myself off here. I look forward to hearing you dive into the next set of Visions Volume 2 shorts. Have a great week. Well, thank you so much, Dave. It's fantastic to have his contribution here and then to have this message as a means for us to kind of return to some of these previous shorts before jumping into the next set. Any thoughts on the Final Fantasy stuff there, Ryan, or...
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I think Star Wars has always informed Final Fantasy from the very beginning. I think Final Fantasy, specifically FF7, has influenced a new generation of Star Wars creators. And, I mean, creators in every medium. That game was so impactful for so many people. I mean, I completely agree once again with the connections there. Love it.
I've never played FF6, but Owen was playing FF6 a few weeks ago. We got the Pixel Remaster on the Switch. He didn't get that far. I think he had played like 5 or 10 hours only, maybe. Although I guess that's probably like half. No. That's more like a 40-hour game, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. So he played the opening portion of it, maybe, is all. But anyway, I walked into the room and I had known that there was a Final Fantasy game that did this, but like I walked into the room and I saw like the names Wedge and Biggs like up on the screen as NPCs, I think, or whatever, and I was like, okay, yeah, the Star Wars influence is very strong there, huh?
Yeah.
So, and yeah, as far as the commentary on colonialism and capitalism and all of that, I feel very strongly agree with Dave on that. I think it's been so long since we recorded the last episode, I don't even really remember what we said about these shorts, but I think we talked about that component of it. If we didn't, we should have, because like I said, I totally agree. That's really at the heart of of that short in the stars, and one of the reasons it is so special. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks again, Dave. Look forward to hearing from you again soon. My mandatory plug for the Discord comes in here because we're chatting with Dave all the time in our Discord, as are the other members of our Discord. So check the show notes if you're a Discord user. Even if you're not, you know what, like give the app a whirl and join our Discord, because it's a great place to have some Star Wars discussions. All right, Ryan. Let's jump into discussing the next 3 episodes of Volume 2 of Visions. We're going to talk about I Am Your Mother, Journey to the Dark Head, and The Spy Dancer. So we'll start with I Am Your Mother, which is the kind of Wallace and Gromit looking, claymation looking kind of short here. So what did you make of this one, Ryan? How did you react to I'm Your Mother, which was produced by Aardman Animations of the UK?
I thought it was like cute and sweet. This isn't my favorite animation style out there. I've never, I don't know, like Wallace and Gromit, Shaun the Sheep, all of those, I don't know, something about that just, I think it's cool that people make it, and, it's legitimately impressive. It looks, this one in particular, it looks, really good. And, I mean, it looks like, I would say, most of these, look like something you could go and watch in a movie theater. It could be a full blockbuster movie, but yeah, it's not my favorite art style, and this one I will say, and maybe I was wrong, maybe I'll be wrong again, I will say this feels like a very thin plot, and pretty simple, which is fine. It's fine. Things can be simple and just fun and sweet, but I don't know, it doesn't, especially compared to some of the the previous episodes or shorts, and then some of them that we're going to talk about today, it just, I don't know, it didn't really do much for me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let me see. I sort of agree about the overall style or genre, I don't know what you call it, of this short. That is it claymation or CG claymation or whatever you would call this, right? Of the Wallet and Gromit looking sort of thing. I like I said, I would agree that overall that's not something I'm super drawn to, or anything that I'm a huge fan of necessarily. But I do think, as you said, Ryan, this looks fantastic, right? As far as that approach goes, it's a really, really great looking, really well executed version of that. And I think the way I would put it is that seeing the trailers for and footage and the whatever promotional material for Visions Volume 2, this is the one when I would see shots of this or images of this or whatever, where I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool, but it was not the one I was excited to see, or whatever. But that being said, I did really like it a lot. I think it's as far as the plot goes and things like that, it's pretty much what you see is what you get, as you were saying. So it's not a overly complex, I don't know that I'm necessarily going to be wowed by some kind of revelation that, well, there's so much more going on in this one than I realized, but at the same time, I think it's a well-told story. And, you know what, a Star Wars, absolutely it's for kids, right? But once in a while we need one for the parents too. And, I guess as the parent of a pre-teenager, well, he's a teenager, as the parent of a teenager,
okay.
You know what I mean? I feel like this one speaks to me,
Okay.
And so I just love the story of the mom who the young daughter is kind of rolling her eyes at the whole episode, and then it turns out like in the end she saves the day. And not that I'm looking at that thinking that's just like me, I'm always saving the day for my kid or something, but
your kid's definitely rolling his eyes at you.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's just I think it was a nice story. And I guess I was kind of joking when I was like, hey, there should, sometimes you need one for the parents or whatever, but like truly I think one of the most important and one of the most ever present kind of elements of Star Wars is telling stories about families, and I think this is as you said, like a cute and very heartwarming story about a family. And then there's also the kind of reversal of like the I'm your father thing, which is cheeky, and maybe we could roll our eyes a little at that too or whatever, but I liked it. I liked seeing that kind of daughter mother relationship explored here a little more, even if it's in a light and kind of playful way or whatever. So I ended up really enjoying this one. Is it my favorite of the 9 Visions Volume 2 episodes? No, but I liked it a lot more than I expected. And I think especially coming where it is too, it's like 4 of 9. So you watch a couple of really pretty heavy, pretty intense, shorts, and then you have this one, and then you go right into Journey to the Dark Head. I mean, it's like, I think it's a nice kind of change of pace here in the running or the layout, I guess, of Volume 2 of Visions. Yeah. Plus, Ryan, you get Dennis Lawson back as Wedge Antilles in this short, so I imagine that's a highlight for you too.
I mean, that's cool. Like, I mean, yeah.
Hey, cool. It's it's a British studio. You know what I mean? It's in some ways, of course, Britain is the cradle of Star Wars, right? Like is like the place where Star Wars was birthed. So I think it's cool for Dennis Lawson to come back and do a couple lines for a British short film, set in the Star Wars universe.
I wonder if this was the plot of Rogue Squadron, the movie.
The movie
yeah. Like, since that's not happening, let's just do this.
If the plot of this short film, which I liked very much, is identical to the plot of the possibly canceled Star Wars film Rogue Squadron, then I think it was probably a good idea to just go ahead and knock it out in short animated form rather than as a full-length film.
Probably, yeah.
But I haven't seen a lot of evidence, Ryan, to corroborate your theory that this is just like Rogue Squadron was just this, and they shifted gears and made it into this short film instead. But I won't tell you you're wrong. You never know. Yeah,
Time
exactly.
will tell.
Right. When the airing dirty laundry behind the scenes, whatever stories of 2022 and 2023 comes out someday, maybe we'll learn.
Refreshing variety.
Right. So let's move on then, if you're ready to talk about Journey to the Dark Head.
I'm ready.
You are?
I'm ready. Yep.
I've seen so many people kind of discussing this one as potentially their favorite of the shorts, Journey to the Dark Head. I don't feel that way myself, but where do you land with that? Is this a highlight for you?
It's not my favorite. It's
okay.
Not even my favorite of this batch.
Right.
Of this trio that we're talking about today.
Okay.
But there's some interesting stuff about it. I'm like, so I looked up the studio, and it's Studio Mir, M-I-R, maybe Mir. They are a South Korean studio, and I realized I had recently watched a bunch of their animated films because they did the recent R-rated Mortal Kombat animated films.
What?
Yeah.
No way. Wow.
Which I think, kind of contextualizes a lot of stuff about this. You can see some connections.
And if I remember correctly, those animated films were much better received than like the more recent live action Mortal Kombat movie, right?
They're really good. I would put them
Okay.
like on the same level as like the first Mortal Kombat movie from like when we were kids. The theatrical movie, they're just super fun.
I thought you were going to say on the first level or on the level of the first Street Fighter 2 anime.
Oh, no, they're not that good. They're not that good. But they're really good. And
if our friend Kevin listens to this, he'll be quoting that movie, the Street Fighter 2 movie. Do you remember the quote?
What's the quote?
Isn't it any man who can kick the crap out of Sagat is okay with me or something like that?
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Go ahead, continue.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
But they're definitely a studio that can handle cool choreographed animated fights, and that is on display here. A lot of style in the action sequences. I think it generally looked pretty great. I think plot wise it's cool. It's an interesting plot. Like it's a pretty interesting story that like you're kind of just like thrown into and like catching up really fast. But I did find, which is kind of strange because I never felt this way about any of the early season 1 Visions episodes or any in season 2, because I've just been season 1 I watched all in Japanese, and then I went and like checked out here and there some of the English dubs, and they seemed generally like pretty good. This one felt a bit stilted to me, and I don't know if it was the voice directing, the voice actors, the script, whatever it was. The English voice acting felt a little just like stilted. It felt like 90s anime dubs. And so I ended up switching over to the Korean voices, because I was like, well, that's where it was made, so maybe. And that I don't speak Korean, but that just like it just felt like it flowed a little better, and I just watched with subtitles, and so like there was like it for the first like part of the episode, it did feel just like kind of awkward to me, but overall, like I liked it. I think some of the designs were pretty wild, like the way the Sith looked with that like mask and everything was really cool, but it didn't really like resonate with me on more than like a superficial level, I think. But on a superficial level, I really liked it, which is fine.
Yeah. I think I feel similarly. Like, I enjoyed watching it very much. I think it was really cool. I think the action was really well done throughout. So, I really enjoyed it. But that being said, like, it just, I guess the way you put it is correct. Like, it just didn't resonate with me to the degree that some of the other ones did. So, and I kind of went into this one thinking like, man, I see a lot of people talking about Journey to the Dark Head. Like, this is like maybe the big standout kind of episode, or not episode, but short from volume 2 here. And I mean, I think it was great. I think it's like, it's one that would appeal to a lot of people. It's just a really cool, like, let's tell just a quintessential sort of like very action heavy Star Wars story, light and dark, Jedi, Sith, all that kind of stuff. But it didn't really get to me on an emotional level or really surprise me or kind of move me in any way beyond just sort of like, this is like a really well executed, really cool kind of action story. But again, like you said, nothing wrong with that. I think especially when you have like a whole menu of different things, it's nice to have these different flavors, and they shouldn't all be trying to do the same thing. And so I think this one fits well, and it in some ways it's sort of like so not opposed, but so it contrasts really strongly with the one before it, I'm Your Mother. You know what I mean? The animation styles are very far apart from one another. The kind of stories that they aim to tell are very far apart from one another, and like this is so action heavy, and just a really different kind of thing than the previous short. So again, I think if with albums, it's super important to sequence the songs in the right order and that kind of thing, right? And I think the sequencing of these shorts is pretty strong as well.
Yeah, and just like the curation of this like entire package, and like it's so thoughtfully done. The way that they picked out these studios knowing their strengths, and then like these studios like delivered, I would assume, like pretty much what Lucasfilm asked for or expected from them, which is totally different. And it's just like I don't know, it's like it's it's a celebration of Star Wars, but it's also just a celebration of the animation medium.
Yeah, and I think too, like watching the behind the scenes, they were talking about how much they were inspired by Korean culture and architecture and things like that. So that was cool too. I was going to bring up the English voice cast that because you kind of mentioned that it wasn't super strong for you or whatever. But Daniel Day Kim, who was in Lost, I don't know if you watched Lost or not.
I did.
He did the voice of.
We watched Lost together.
We did.
We watched the finale together, at least.
All right. My bad. I don't. Whose apartment were we at? Were we at Chris and Matt's apartment on Hancock Street? Is that where we were? I remember watching something
maybe
over there with. Anyway,
no, that's
my
where
memory
we watched Game of Thrones. I think. I don't know if you were there for that.
We watched that together.
We did the first episode. Yeah.
Wow.
It was in someone's basement. Was it?
I didn't even know you lived in these United States when that stuff was on TV.
I was like
that doesn't...
briefly passing through.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyways,
gotcha.
Yes, I've seen Lost. I do.
Oh, okay.
I do like Daniel Day Kim.
Yeah. So he's part of the English voice cast, and then Ashley Park, who I think is a fairly well known actor, played the main female character here. So. Yeah, it was. They really went for it in terms of the voice cast there. So
yeah,
it was cool.
yeah. I mean, not.
And I think it was all Korean American, or
That's great.
Like, so it was cool too.
Yeah. So it's like not due to lack of talent or anything. It's just I don't know. There's just something. Maybe it was like the lip syncing or something, or the script. I don't know. Something just like felt off to me. But I enjoyed it more watching it in the Korean. So
yeah,
I don't know.
And I think I've only watched Journey to the Dark Head once, and some of them I've watched twice. So maybe I should watch it again and see what I think. It may have been I watched these in a couple of spurts or whatever. Like I watched a few at a time, and it may have been the last one I was watching fairly late at night when I watched it too. So yeah, but. Let's move on to one more. We'll talk about one more here, Ryan, which is The Spy Dancer. And The Spy Dancer was produced by a French studio. I don't have... I'll get the name. But this, I think, is...
La Cachette?
Oh, yeah. La Cachette, I think. I heard them say it so many times. But it was a while ago now. So... Yes, I think this is my favorite of all of the Visions Volume 2 shorts. I
Same.
loved this one. I really,
Same.
really loved it. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought this one was absolutely gorgeous. I thought the story that it told was so focused and so powerful. I loved that it was in some ways such a common kind of Star Wars story, but then in other ways it was like so different. Like it's performance in a theater, and there's no lightsabers really. They're like using, performative dance and their costumes and the theater as the means of action. And I love this one so much. And then I know I'm a broken record talking about this, but then to watch the behind the scenes short about this afterwards, and to see the connections between this story, these characters, and the history of France resisting, Nazi occupation during World War II. And like they even were basing characters, or really inspired, I guess, anyways. Some of these characters were really inspired by, actual historical figures in France at the time. So, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many like influences. I mean, I don't know if they're influences. Probably not. But there's things that like came to mind for me in this one. Moulin Rouge, for one, which has a Star Wars connection in a weird way. But which is like a movie and a soundtrack that I love. And then also there is a PlayStation 4 game that from a few years ago, and it was called Bound, and it was like a platformer, a 3D platformer, but it's super visually striking. It's really hard to explain, but like you move, like your movement is very much like dance based, and it's has the kind of same like ribbons and twirls and everything that was like happening here. And I thought that game was like super cool, and so it's cool to get that vibe in like the more like actiony way that you have here. The art is just incredible. Like you could pause this one at like any moment and it would just like gorgeous. Like I feel like every shot, the composition, the colors, the just art style, so good. The story, like it's this like really, it's like a dark revenge story. It's it's people plotting for like so long. Like you can tell, like you again, you're like dropped into these people's lives as you are with all of these vision stories, and you have to really figure out characters in the first like 5 minutes of these, which I think is like just a testament to like the incredible storytelling on display. But like 5 minutes into these, who the characters are, their motivations, and you have that with this main character, and you're like, wow, like she is just like working here, entertaining these Imperials that she hates just so she can like have her revenge. And then like she's halfway through the episode, she's about to get that revenge, for having her life destroyed, her child taken from her. She's about to get that revenge finally and kill that Imperial officer, and then she hesitates. And at the time you're just like, oh, it's someone different, and now she doesn't get to like have her revenge. But then the way the story kind of unfolds from there, and then you like find out that that Imperial officer is actually her son that was taken from her. And, you know, that, like, kind of revelation is, like, really powerful. And then for both of them, and it's like those, you know, it brings to mind stuff like in the sequel trilogy, like Han and Leia confronting Ben, and like just the conflict, you know, in him, and and then just like the way the short ends, and like how kind of like ambiguous it is. Like, it's, I don't know, it was just really, really powerful. Like, I was surprised, and in a very good way.
Yeah, same. I mean, I was like, there were moments where I was like doing like the fist pump thing, where I was like, it was really exciting and it was emotional and it was powerful, and there were moments where I was like, yes, like I'm so excited to see that they're doing this. And you know, you said there that this is like somebody who's like motivated by revenge, and I guess that's true to an extent, but like I also felt like this was such it was it's a story we see all the time in Star Wars, which is people motivated to resist and to fight back and to join the rebellion, or whatever you want to say, because of what's been taken away from them by the Empire. You know, and we've even seen it in multiple other shorts in Volume 2 of Visions, where you have people who are really like, the Empire has come in, you know, imperialism, colonialism, whatever, like wiped out their planet, their family, their resources, you know, whatever it is. And so they're motivated to rebel and resist and fight back. And to me, I feel like that's what it is for her primarily. Because there's even a moment, like maybe a third of the way through, where, you know, she's working with, I forget the name of the character, or like how they refer to the guy who's like in the command center or whatever, right? But she's using her Qui-Gon Jinn ladies razor communicator thing to talk to that guy wherever he is. And it's all about like the mission, and it's all about how are they building resources and all that, you know. And it's like, it's, you're building a rebellion, right? I feel like that's really what it is. So to me, it's no more like necessarily revenge driving her than it is revenge driving, you know, Cassian or Jin or Mon Mothma, you know, whoever, right? Which is not to say that's not a component of what motivates them, but it's not like the primary thing necessarily. It's like the catalyst, but their goal is to fight the Empire, you know. But like, I loved, and I thought it was so well executed in this short, when she's performing and she sees like that uniform, and she sees specifically the pairing of that officer and the I think it's a droid that's with him, right? And it's like, that takes her back, and then she's filled with that sense of rage and revenge, right? And at that point, she doesn't give a damn about the rebellion and gathering resources and doing any of those things, because she's so motivated by revenge, you know? And then, Ryan, I love it even more, because instead of like betraying what to me is what Star Wars is all about, she has the opportunity to exact that revenge. And obviously it's because she realizes, like, wait a minute, this isn't the right guy. This isn't the person that I thought it was. She stops short of killing him. And then the choice to show mercy, the choice to be nonviolent, however you want to put it, right? Like the choice to act in the interest, or through the light side rather than the dark side, completely pays off, because it's you know, she realizes it was her child, right? So imagine what she would have done to herself, taken away from herself, etc., had she given into that desire for revenge and all that, right? And so, like, I just, oh man, I love it, because it's so Star Wars in so many ways, and yet it still surprised me, as you said. Like, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, and I think like this is, you know, this is the kind of family Star Wars story that resonates with me, is just the complexities of family, and you know, things like aren't always simple and clear cut, with families, which is why, you know, the Ben Solo stuff worked so well for me in the sequel trilogy. And yeah, you know, there's like, you know, nature versus nurture stuff in there. You know, just connections, destinies, you know, all that is just intertwined in a story like this. And yeah, it's just really, really powerful. And they hit these like just strong emotional moments, but it doesn't, you know, they're also like, they don't feel like manipulative or anything either, because there's a level of complexity to them. And yeah, and I think like leaving the ending ambiguous was just like really kind of stamps like the whole thing, and
Yeah.
just like solidifies it as just like such a strong, complicated story.
Yeah.
It's amazing they did that in like 17 minutes. Like,
yeah.
like there's
Yeah.
so many like 2-hour movies with like that are so much less complex and with like so much less nuance. Like, it's wild.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you could say that about maybe all or at least most of these Visions shorts, but they're so visually, like, they tell so much of the story is told through the visual elements rather than, but you know, there's still so much depth here, even though, I mean, there's a lot of dialogue in this one, you know, in comparison to some of the others, for instance. It's not like it's light on dialogue for, you know, its runtime or whatever. But I still feel like the visual storytelling has to do a lot of heavy lifting in order to communicate as much as it does in the amount of time that it does, you know. And so I really appreciate that aspect of most of these shorts, including this one. An example of that, I think, is, you know, you mentioned the ambiguous ending, and I love the ending. I love that, you know, we end with, I guess the character's name is John, or maybe it's pronounced a little differently in French, you know, but the sun is standing there in the, you know, in the command cruiser, on the, what's the word? Oh my gosh, Ryan, on the room where you command from, the
deck.
The deck, yeah, there you go, the deck.
Okay.
Yeah. Standing on the deck there and looking out, and like, you don't know what, you know, exactly is going to happen in the future, but you can tell he's very moved in that his mother has gotten through to him in some way, right? So not unlike, you know, moments we experience with Ben Solo, or even like Darth Vader or whatever, right, where it's like you can tell there's some, this person has been reached on some level, right? So I think that's really cool. But then when he takes off his cap and you can see the spots where the horns have been removed, that is so quintessential Empire right there. You know, it's like, we have to dehumanize you, or
We have to humanize you.
Humanize you, yeah. But you know what I mean, like dehumanize and really remove any kind of individualism or individual pride or
alien.
anything.
Like,
yes, yeah. But I think, like, yeah, I mean, that's what it is within the confines of the Star Wars story. But you know, I think like taken out of that, you know, I think the takeaway for us as the audience is like, you know, it's, to me, it's dehumanizing. You know what I mean? You're removing this person's ability to be an individual. You're erasing their past. You're erasing their heritage. You know, because you want to replace it with, or you want to, you know, control or whatever. So
homogenized culture.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing that the First Order does to, you know, all of its stormtroopers, who are all human, but you know, you have to remove their whole past from them, and you know. So anyway, some people would argue that's what the Jedi do too. They're they're young initiates, but
but they're
probably not with that intention.
They're
I don't
like
think.
the Jedi. Well, like the Jedi are just like more like neoliberals, where they're like, you can be an alien and be part of it, but we're also going to give you like very strict dogma that you need to follow. But we welcome everyone.
Yeah.
When
I was just thinking about
children from their homes.
Yeah, right. But it's not stealing But anyway, okay. We'll see how Rey deals with that, or wrestles with that in the new Jedi Order that she creates. So yeah. Anyway, this is a major highlight. I loved this short. And it is my favorite of all of them. So unexpected. I never could have predicted. We'll see a short set in a Star Wars equivalent of a French cabaret, or theater, and like to describe this one. It's not anything I could have ever predicted, could have ever, anticipated or hoped for, and it is definitely my favorite of this volume because it's just fantastic.
Nice. I still haven't seen the last three. I will be watching those over the course of the next week. But I don't know. Like, I think Screecher's Reach is very, very high up there. That was my favorite up until this point. So I would, but like this one, I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch them both again, and it may be like recency bias because I was like literally just watched this one, and it like had a huge effect on me. But like also so did Screecher's Reach, so I'll definitely be revisiting these two for sure.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit of recency bias going on as well, just because. I did watch this one after Screecher's Reach, which is another major highlight. And I'll tell you that the final three are all really great too. So there's a lot to look forward to there in the final three. Exciting. So to me anyways, I loved all three of them. So
cool.
So anyway, that's I guess we're doing a 3-part look at Star Wars Visions Volume 2 here. A trilogy.
A trilogy of trilogies. It is the Blockade Runner saga.
Yeah, it's going to work out pretty well. It's been a really busy time for me at work and in life, and probably true for you too, Ryan. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel here coming next week. So I will be on summer break starting at the end of next week. How about you? When do you end up getting a break?
End of next week. Next Friday is my last day.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, hopefully we can put out episodes a little more frequently again here coming up. So I think our next one will return here with our last look at Visions Volume 2, and we'll see where we go from there. May is going to get away from us, but, we had talked about maybe doing something with Return of the Jedi in honor of its 40th anniversary. So maybe we can work something out there, and there will be plenty to talk about going forward. So we'll be back soon with another episode of the Blockade Runner podcast. Until then, Ryan, listeners can find everything we do at blockaderunnerpodcast.com. If they want to reach out to us, share their thoughts on Star Wars Visions or other Star Wars topics, they can email the show, blockaderunnerpodcast@gmail.com. They can follow the show on Twitter, message us there at Blockade Run. You are on Twitter at
Vyamalay, Vyamalay, and Standard Definition Gaming, Def stand for 80.
Yeah, and of course we do have our Discord. There will be a link to that in the show notes, and there's a link on our website as well. So please consider joining our Discord and taking part in conversations with like-minded Star Wars fans there. So, Ryan, until next time, thanks very much to those listening and or watching, as we've been putting these up on YouTube lately too. And we'll be back soon with another episode of the Blockade Runner podcast.